Welcome back. I'm Simi Sarah. You're listening to the Mike Smyth Show. The talk from the federal budget has shifted very quickly to talk of a potential federal election now that we've heard all three opposition parties say they will not be supporting the federal budget unless some changes are made. Well, to talk more about that, we are joined by James Moore, the Minister of Canadian Heritage and Official Languages and the MP for Port Moody, Westwood, Port Coquitlam. Thank you very much for joining us.
Pleasure as always. Thanks for having me.
Busy day today, I would imagine.
Yeah, it's intense as always. We were expecting a budget day. Now we may have a budget day obviously filled with all kinds of political intrigue. It's not, frankly, quite honestly, it's not what I hoped for. I hoped that we'd have a serious consideration of our budget, but it's going in a different direction.
Well, I've also heard, though, every party say unless changes are made, which begs the question, is the government prepared to change anything in the budget?
We changed going into the budget. I mean, look, we did unprecedented consultations going into this budget. I mean, I myself went around the country as a cabinet minister with specific responsibilities, held roundtables and discussions and meetings around the country. The NDP made no, and the Bloc, by the way, the Bloc Québécois, of course, wanted us to give $2.3 billion to the province of Quebec. They wanted us to commit to building an NHL arena for Quebec City for an NHL team that doesn't, so we said no to that, so we lost the Bloc right away. The Liberals have always been committed to an election campaign. They just generally don't have confidence in our government. And the NDP in the last few weeks, as you know, has been very public about very specific demands of the government. They had 4 clear items. We agreed with them on 2 of their 4 items. We put those in the budget, but we disagreed on the other 2. And in politics, we're not just going to agree for the sake of staying in power. We disagreed, but we agreed with them on 2 items. The 2 items that we agreed on were giving more support for seniors, and the second item was to make sure that we have a reestablished program to help people renovate their homes with more energy-efficient technology. So we agreed with them on 2 of their 4 items. But by the way, one of their other items that they wanted us to accede to was the idea that we would expand Canada pension plan benefits. Well, legally we can't. Yeah, but legally we can't do that without the consent of the provinces. And there's not one province in this country, even those with an NDP government in Nova Scotia and Manitoba, there's not one government in the province of a single province in the country that's asking us to do that. So the NDP are asking us to legally do something that we legally are incapable of doing.
How would you classify this budget, though?
Solid, mainstream, and as we're calling it, it's a low-tax plan for jobs and growth. It's part of what's working. And by the way, the numbers are very clear. Canada is leading the world in economic recovery. We have the lowest taxes we've had in Canada in 50 years, and we're leading the world in job recovery from the recession. We've net improved our job situation. We have more employment in Canada than we had before the recession hit, and we're leading the G20 when it comes to economic growth. So we're making the right decisions across the board.
Would you say that this is as far as the Conservative government is willing to go, and if that means an election, then that means an election?
We already buckled and agreed to some of the items that the NDP and the Liberals wanted to see in the budget. So we've compromised, and this is our compromised position. So if half a loaf isn't good enough for the NDP and they want to rather throw the country into a $500 million election, that's their choice. This could be our 4th election in 7 years. They're very expensive. They're unnecessary. In British Columbia, we're going to have a referendum, I gather, on the HST, a municipal election this fall, maybe a provincial election as well. It's up to Premier Clark. So there's a lot of money being spent on politics, but not enough money being spent on things that matter to Canadians. And there's 2 items in this budget that I'm particularly proud of, by the way, that for your average listener are items that are very good for them. One of them is, as Minister of Heritage, the Minister responsible for the arts, something that's very good. We have a $500 tax credit. So $500 in cash for your kids to be put into arts training school, dancing, Girl Guides, Boy Scouts, language training, any kind of arts class to match the $500 that we have for amateur sports, the cost of registering your kids in sports. $500 in cash for every child in this country age 16 and under annually. Every year you can apply for that. That is in this budget. That'll be gone. And volunteer firefighters are the backbone of so many of our fire halls all across the province of British Columbia. I live in the Tri-Cities in Port Coquitlam, 110 volunteer firefighters who provide a remarkable service to the Tri-Cities. We put in this budget a $3,000 tax credit for them for the cost of volunteering their services to support our communities and provide fire and emergency services at community events and other things. We put that in the budget. It's what firefighters have asked for across British Columbia, and the opposition is voting against it. Not to mention, by the way, an increase in funding of $763 million to British Columbia for health and education. So, I mean, we're delivering good government for Canada. The numbers are clear. Record amounts of investment for BC, and the Liberals and the NDP are turning their back on it.
James, I don't know, but you already sound like you're running.
I'm a politician.
You always sound like that.
We're always kind of, I suppose. But I'm selling a budget that I do believe in, and whenever the campaign comes, it comes. There are good things in this budget, and I can tell you, I've worked, all through the month of January, all the way right up until now, to get really good items in this budget, stuff that I'm really proud of. I know volunteer firefighters up in the Sasamat Volunteer Fire Department up in the Tri-Cities. They work so bloody hard, Simi, so hard. And
listen, nobody's going to disagree with you on that. So we'll leave it at that, and we thank you very much for your time today.
Have a great day. Thanks.
All right, you too. That is James Moore, the Conservative MP, talking about the run-up to the election.